The coming cinema apocalypse is here. We've been talking a lot about Hollywood's implosion. People bet on streaming in a big way. And it was not the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that everyone had hoped. So, a guy that I happen to know, his name is Ted Hope. He has a Substack. Ted Hope is a filmmaker that you know. Ted Hope is a film producer whose work you love. Most famously, he produced a film called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And Ted Hope is, as am I, an optimist when it comes to this industry. There is always struggle when it comes to independent film. Always been struggle. So what I love about Ted is he recently authored a book. We follow each other on social media. I met Ted Hope at the Bahamas International Film Festival, where we were members of the jury. This is probably like I want to say like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But
late 90s.
Like he has been someone who perseveres in independent film, and I follow his Substack. I will put a link to this story in the description of this episode, but I want to read this to you. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I'm going to read most of it because it applies to a lot of things we're talking about with regard to the strike. So the cinema apocalypse is here. Let me start. Ted Hope. Look him up on look up Ted and his work on IMDb. Google just tedhope.substack.com. Follow his work. Here we go. I think it may be time to take out the crystal ball again. Last time we looked back on the past to see what may be coming. This time we are looking at where we are right now. I provided you the prepper's guide to the oncoming shitstorm so you can manage all right. I know I am a hopeful guy. I saw what you did there, Ted Hope. But perhaps it is worse than we expect. If it smells like chicken and tastes like chicken, is it chicken? I keep one earthquake bag in my car, one upstairs and one downstairs. If we still had offices, one would be there too. Each has its own unique book to read. We have to be prepared, right? So come with me now, sweet Sherlock, and let's examine the clues of where we might be going. So what is the now? That's always a good place to start, right? The truth is there are too many signs to count. Let's see, off the top of my head, I have 50 indicators that we are on the highway to hell, at least when it comes to the art form and business that we all have loved so deeply. Luckily, if I really thought movies were all that mattered, and I would have given it all up and not finished this post. And besides, we know we can build something better too. That is the work of the next 10 years, but oh, to be young again. Trigger warning. He puts a trigger warning on this, but his trigger warnings are usually humorous. Trigger warning: if you are prone to despair about the loss of things you once loved, the value of your work, or the greatest art form our world has ever created, you might want to skip the rest of this post. But on the other hand, how are you going to be ready to join the campaign for real change? We need to know where we stand. Maybe another cup of coffee first. Possible proof the cinema apocalypse is upon us. We are controlled by surveillance capitalism. Read the book, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff. I've not read the book. There is a link in this Substack. The information age is over. This is number 2. The information age is over. The value of information has been destroyed. There is no reliable source for truth. Care to comment, Alan?
Absolutely true. Can't trust media. Can't trust, like you could trust Wikipedia. Can't trust anything on the internet. It's absolutely true.
You know what I'll say? Don't trust the Wikipedia entry about me. It's been edited several times by people who don't like me, and you can always see the bias in it. The defunct Film Threat magazine. It's like, we went from a print magazine to online. Many magazines have done this. Yeah. I have what's the opposite of rose-colored glasses? I have true. I'm looking for something beyond, what is the narrative of a story?
Yeah.
What is the angle? What are they trying to say to me?
Yeah.
So
yeah, to me, it's now that you can get canceled for saying men can have babies, tells you about the truth.
well, and even somebody says, here, can we trust Alan?
No,
We're going
you
to
can't.
find out. We're going to find out. We're going to find out, Alan. Let me continue reading this to you. And it is a very long piece. I will post the link in the description. This is something that has bothered me in particular. Number 3, we no longer have a counterculture or anything that can be the necessary cultural course corrector. I would disagree with that somewhat. I think that YouTube is where counterculture has migrated. There is still and look, I love counterculture. When I was a kid, lived by it. Punk rock music, punk rock, new wave. When it came to music, I loved anything 4AD label. The older folks in the audience will know what I'm talking about. So when it came to music, when it came to film, I would always go to the art house. When it came to comic books, I would read, I would read comic books like Yummy Fur by Chester Brown. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? It's Canadian comic book author and artist. So I love counterculture, anything.
Right. But to say it's come to YouTube, I mean, censorship is not a word you associate with counterculture.
Exactly.
And I think that's the problem. YouTube is so big and we all go to it. Twitter was so big and we all go to it. And yet, you're getting censored either way. Right. And that's the dangerous thing.
Number 4, media CEOs earn 9-figure salaries while the industry creative talent workers need to take Uber gigs. Fact check true.
Yep.
Number 5, further massive media consolidation is likely. Who's buying who this week? Regardless, it always ends with massive layoffs. Does it really have to be this way? Studios could easily give the WGA what they want, but won't even speak to them. Number 6, it is a fire sale on the legacy business of linear TV. Who's next on the list? Disney is talking about selling ABC and dumping it, as well as ESPN, for that matter. The podcast industry. Yep. Oh, sorry, Alan.
I was going to ask you, when was the last time you watched ABC, CBS, or NBC?
I know exactly when. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. I watch sports. I watch the Dodgers. I watch sports. I don't watch news on any sort of television. I will watch clips from local news on YouTube that are curated because there's really interesting stories sometimes. But I don't watch regular television.
Yeah, I'm all over YouTube. The last time I saw ABC was our Oscar live cast.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
The podcast industry's boom and bust is our canary in the coal mine. And there's a link to a story in Vanity Fair after the podcast Gold Rush. Is audio too corporate to be cool? Interesting. I can attest to this. American theater is imploding before our eyes, and that's another canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
And then this is a link to a New York Times story. Why are people not going to Broadway? Probably because they've enforced this mask policy. The prices are prohibitively expensive, and entertainment is usually, if you're going to cut down on your budget, you're not going to stop buying food or gas or rent. You're going to stop spending money on entertainment, and theater is very expensive.
Yeah, and let's also put it this way. Broadway is either super woke or it's based on some existing IP. I mean, how many Broadway shows are based on movies, popular movies?
Right. Well, I do kind of want to see the Beetlejuice play. It's playing.
Well, you better hurry up. Yeah.
All right.
We're seeing Into the Woods this weekend.
All right. I really want Alan to pay attention to this one. The creator economy only favors the platforms and only works for the highest selling artists. There is a chart here. I'm going to zoom in that tells you the payout per stream from each of these companies. Alan, would you read YouTube?
YouTube is 0.00069.
I knew I could count on you.
Yes.
I knew I could count on you. Continuing with this piece. Look, we have fun. We have fun just hanging out. So just to look at these numbers, it's kind of crazy. Spotify 0.00437. Interesting. Number 10, big tech promises convenience and efficiency, and instead consistently undermines all that was once good about an industry or sector. Let me give you some examples. And there's a thing here about why we are striking. You can read this in the piece when I share it. Look at what big tech has done. It's captured the minds of kids, for the most part, teenagers, and contributed to rampant mental illness among teenagers with these black mirrors, right, that we all have. Secondly, big tech infiltrated the music industry and has basically just broken that model. And the entertainment industry, film and TV, streaming has effectively broken that model to the point where I was watching an Instagram post from a WGA writer who was saying, hey, years ago, I'd work for 10, 12 months of the year, made a really good living. Now I work 3 months of the year. I don't work enough months of the year because they've cut down the show orders to such a small degree that he's unable to get health care. It's something to keep in mind. AI, number 11, AI is a real threat to all film people's jobs. AI is a real threat to everyone's jobs. AI is a threat to our world. Number 12, nobody wants to strike. When it comes to a strike, people are at their, what is that? Alan, can you look that up? It's IAMI, IAMAHAIANG I am at the. Can you look that up, Alan?
Yeah, I'm okay. Okay, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Oh, I love the movie Network.
Yes.
That's what that's from. All right, continuing. Breaking point. The fact that there are 2 of the American film unions at strike now is a very big thing. We all know the system is unfair, that it was built to be unfair, and the industry leaders only look out for themselves. Number 13, everyone is losing. Audiences, filmmakers, crew, exhibitors, and studios. And it is now built in such a way to promote that. As Mark Harris pointed out, 3 of the biggest players in the AMPTP, Netflix, Apple, and Amazon, have virtually no investment in the survival of movie theaters. This is very disconcerting. The rest are apparently dumb enough to shoot themselves in the foot and then shout, look at what the strikers made me do. In response to Kyle Buchanan, quote, studios will literally push big films to 2024, fritter away the momentum from Barbenheimer, imperil theaters still recovering from the pandemic, and take on countless millions in delayed related costs instead of just reopening negotiations to end the strike.
Yeah, I interviewed Michael Mendelsohn yesterday, Hollywood producer, indie films mostly, but yeah, we talked a lot about the strike, and I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but the indication I got from him was today was the magic day, the force majeure,
right?
And he thinks the writer's strike will be done in September, and the actor's strike will be done in November.
Number 14, the studios don't even make enough films to keep the ecosystem working. That's 49 wide release movies scheduled in the next 6 months, 28 weekends, which was already not enough before they started pushing them back. Number 15, this is the DGA's AI protection, and they won by not joining the strike. Quote, employers may not use AI in connection with creative elements without consultation with the director or other DGA covered employees. End quote. Consultation is far less than approval, sign off, or payment negotiated in good faith. Why would the DGA agree to this? This quote protection is pathetic. Number 16, only 41% of eligible DGA members bothered to vote on this new union contract. This means that only 35.6%, 67% of the DGA declared they were in favor. Vote was 87% in favor to 13% opposed, etc. Goes to the numbers of that. If they can't be troubled to even vote electronically, does anyone really care about our industry? Number 17, producing is no longer a viable career path. It was always iffy, but don't expect the best and the brightest to join this field anytime soon, unless significant more support is offered them. And if you didn't notice, producers generate more movies than anyone else. Alan, any comments on this? And it's a longer piece. I'm not going to read the whole thing.
It's hard not to feel nihilistic about what's
right. He gets a little positive at the end. I mean, the positive light at the end of the rainbow is, hey, the indie film world is here. You're going to see a lot more indies get wider releases.
No, I mean, if there's a bright side to the strike and everything that's going on, the shenanigans, is indie films are getting a chance. Just the fact that Sound of Freedom is opening in more theaters this week than less says something. And I think, indie films, they're not beholden to big studios. They are the stories of the creators. They are the truer stories.
Beholden is not even a word.
I know. I'm making things up. I'm making things up, baby. There are words that must be made up. There are ideas and concepts where words just have to be made up, and I'm going to do that.
Well,
make that my mission here.
There's more to this article. I'm going to put the link in the description, but follow Ted Hope on Substack and on social media. Just look up Ted Hope. Really fascinating piece. I just want to bring it to your attention. I am hopeful, frankly. That's why I like Ted Hope, because he's not all doom and gloom in the industry. He's not Chicken Little. He's very realistic. And so I like that. But follow him and read the entire piece, and we'll continue to revisit this topic, probably on our Hollywood on the Rock show.